Ask in kindergarten class how many of you can draw, and all hands shoot up. Calm down, everyone. Make sure to keep quiet. This is a classroom. Make sure to keep quiet.
I can.
Pick me.
Make sure to keep quiet. Okay.
Of course we can draw. Yes, all of us.
What can you draw?
Anything.
How about a dog eating a fire truck in the jungle?
Sure. How big do you want it?
How many of you like to sing? How many of you like to sing?
Pick me.
I do.
Yes, of course we can sing.
What can you sing?
Anything.
What if you don't know the words?
That's okay. We'll just make them up. Let's sing.
Twinkle.
Okay, singing, guys, but make sure to how many of you like to dance? How many of you like to dance? What kind of music do you like to dance to?
You gotta pick me. I'm the best dancer.
What kind of music do you like to dance to?
Any kind. Let's dance.
Yeah, let's dance.
Guys, take your seats. Take your seats. Extremely, take your seats. This is a classroom. All right. We'll be dancing. Do you like to act in plays?
Oh, yes, I do.
Do you play musical instruments?
I do really bad.
Yes, I'm the best at playing musical instruments.
How many of you like to write poetry?
Yes, I do.
How many of you can read, write, and count?
I can. Actually, I can do that. We're learning that stuff right now.
Now, try those questions on a college audience. A few students will raise their hands when asked if they can draw or dance or sing or act or play a musical instrument. More often than not, those who do raise their hands want to qualify their responses with their limitations.
I play piano, but not very well. My mother made me.
I only dance to rock and roll.
I only sing in the shower.
I only draw conclusions.
When asked why the limitation, the college students answer,
I don't have any talent.
I haven't done any of that stuff since about the 3rd grade.
Who's got time?
That's just not my major.
you can imagine the response when asked the same questions of an even older audience.
Oh gee, is that the time?
Gotta run.
I don't think so.
You've got to be kidding me.
Not with my schedule. Maybe after about 3 more martinis.
What went wrong between kindergarten and now? Whatever happened to yes, of course I can?
I've become so caught up in my grown-up stuff. I think I've lost some spontaneity. Not to mention perspective on living life. Every day at my job with my family. But I'm discovering all I really need to know. I learned in kindergarten about how to live, what to do, how to be. It's a sandbox code of ethics, not some grad school mumbo jumbo. It's had the greatest impact on me.
I learned share, play fair.
Don't hit people, don't take things that don't belong to you.
If you hurt someone, say you're sorry, to name just a few. Lean
up your own mess. And wash your hands before you eat. Hold hands and stick together when you cross the street.
Flush. Live a balanced life, learn some, take some, work and play. And sing and dance and draw, and take a nap each day. Be aware of wonder, think of the seed in the paper cup. Who knows why the root goes down and the plant goes up? But we're all like that. And just as the seed, the mouse, the bee, and the goldfish all will die someday, well, so will we. Remember the first word you learned in your Dick and Jane book, the biggest, most important word of all. Look. It's all true when we go out into the world. In these uncertain times and certain weather, it doesn't matter if you're 6 years old or 60. We should all hold hands and stick together. Remember the first word you learned in your Dick and Jane book, the biggest, most important word of all. Look.
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 Cinderella was the title on the chalkboard marquee.
Given the task of dramatizing a fairy tale for a teacher's conference, the kindergarten class decided on the classic old rags to riches story, Cinderella.
You know how it goes. Shy, agreeable protagonist, victimized by abusive step-parents, waits for wise matriarchal figure to rescue her, transformed from codependency to bliss.
In other words, if you're good looking, good at heart, and have a fairy godmother, you got it made.
It was a good choice from the teacher's point of view because there were so many characters and every child in the class could be in the play.
A list of characters was compiled as a class talked through the plot of the drama.
There was the absolutely ravishing Cinderella,
The evil stepmother,
The two wicked but stupid stepsisters,
A beautiful and wise fairy godmother,
The pumpkin,
Mice,
Coachman,
horses,
The king,
all the people at the king's ball,
generals,
admirals,
knights,
princesses,
and, of course, that ultimate object of fabled desire, the prince.
who, if you recall, was really only a salesman interested in pushing his inventory of glass slippers.
The children were allowed to choose roles for themselves. As the casting was completed, each child was labeled with a felt pen and paper and sent to stand over on the other side of the room. Finally, every child had a part.
except one. One small boy who had remained quiet and disengaged from the selection process. Norman, a kid who was somehow different. Not weird, just different in the way he looked at things. Norman was always thinking. And like so many misunderstood but great thinkers, Norman was teased a lot by his classmates, causing him to live on the fringe of kindergarten society.
Well, Norman, what are you going to be?
Well, I'm going to be the pig. Pig? There's no pig in the story of Cinderella. Well, there is now.
Norman did not relate to being a footman, a mouse, or a pumpkin. He knew his character, a pig.
And he was not about to give up his part in the play and go over and stand against the wall where a loser would stand.
He intended to participate wherever pigs fit into the scheme of things, without giving up dignity or identity. He took it for granted that there would be a place for pigs, and that the teacher would know that.
So, what do you say to a kid who's already thinking up of a costume of pink long underwear, a pipe cleaner tail, and a paper cup for a nose?
What do you say to an innocent little pig who doesn't see his career in acting teetering on the brink of utter humiliation?
And what do you say to all of the pigs? All of those who are different and who do not accept the available boxes and pigeonholes?
So what did the teachers say at the moment? Well, sometimes teachers talk more like fairy godmothers.
So be it.
Norman was declared the pig in the story of Cinderella.
It was quite fine with the rest of the class, as nobody wanted to be the pig anyhow. And since there was nothing in the script explaining what the pig was supposed to do, the action was left to Norman. It turns out he gave himself one of the best walk-on parts in the history of the children's theater. He was Cinderella's personal pig. Where she went, he went.
He made no sound. He simply sat on his back haunches and observed what was going on, like some silently supportive Greek chorus.
The expression on his face reflected the details of the dramatic action, looking worried,
sad, anxious,
hopeful,
puzzled,
mad,
bored,
sick,
and pleased as the moment required.
There was no doubt about what was going on, and no doubt that it was important.
One look at the pig and you knew. The pig was so earnest, so sincere, so very there.
Norman created such dramatic tension that people who knew how his story was supposed to end began to have doubts.
At the climax, when the prince finally placed the glass slipper on Cinderella's foot and the ecstatic couple hugged and rode off to live happily ever after, Norman finally made his move. He went wild with joy, dancing around the stage on his back feet and barking like a dog.
In rehearsal, the teacher tried explaining to Norman.
Even if there was a pig in the story of Cinderella, there is no such thing as a dancing, barking pig. Well, there is now. It's true, Norman. It's true. Knock him dead, pig. Woo-hoo! Woo-hoo! The presentation at the teachers' conference was a smash hit.
When Norman danced his dance, the crowd of weary teachers laughed and wept and cheered.
And later, when the pig stumbled out for his curtain call, the applause turned into a spontaneous standing ovation.
The teachers were able to see that the real Cinderella was not the little girl with the button nose and blonde hair, but Norman, the dancing, barking pig.
And they knew the real fairy godmother wasn't the child waving her fairy wand, but the teacher standing weeping in the wings.
Well, the kindergarten class had many invitations to come and perform their highly acclaimed production of Cinderella. Sometimes the teacher would have to explain what it was about the performance that was so unique. It has a pig in it, you see.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the star of the show is a dancing, barking pig.
But there's no dancing, barking pig in Cinderella.
Well, there is now.
of a Saturday evening, the neighborhood children are playing hide and seek. How long since I've played hide and seek? 30 years, maybe more. But I remember how, and I could join their game at any moment. If they invited me. But adults don't play hide and seek. Not for fun, anyway.
Did you have a kid in your neighborhood who always hid so good nobody could ever find him? We did. After a while, we would give up on him, leaving him to rot wherever he was. Sooner or later, he'd show up, all mad because we didn't keep looking for him. And we'd get mad back because he wasn't playing the game the way it was supposed to be played. There's hiding and there's finding, we'd say. And he'd say it was hide and seek, not hide and give up. And we'd all yell about who made the rules and who cared about who anyway, how we wouldn't play with him if he didn't get things straight and things like that. Hide and seek and yell. No matter what though, the next time he would always hide too good again. He's probably still hiding out there for all I know.
The neighborhood game goes on, and there's a kid hiding under my front window in a pile of leaves. He has been there for some time now, and everyone else is found. And they're about to give up on him back over at the base. I considered just going out to the base and telling him where he's hiding. And I thought about setting the leaves on fire. Finally, I just yelled, "Get found, kid!" It's hard to know how to be helpful sometimes.
A man I know found out last year he had terminal cancer. He was a doctor and knew about dying, and he didn't want to make his family and friends suffer through that with him. So he kept a secret, and he died. Everybody said how brave he was, that he bared his suffering in silence. But privately, his family and friends said how angry they were that he didn't need them, didn't trust their strength. And they were hurt that he hadn't said goodbye. He hid too good. Getting found would have kept him in the game. Hide and seek grown-up style. Wanting to hide, needing to be sought, confused about being found.
A game I loved more than hide and seek was a game called Sardines. In Sardines, one person would be chosen as it and would go and hide. Everyone else would go and look for that person. When someone would finally find it, they would hide with them. Soon, more and more people found them, and they would pile up like little pile of puppies. Soon, one person would laugh, and then another, and then another, and by the sound of laughter, everyone got found.
In Solomon Islands, in the South Pacific, some villagers practice a unique form of logging. If a tree is too large to be felled by an axe, the natives cut it down by yelling at it. I can't lay my hands on the article, but I swear I read it. Woodsmen with special powers creep up on a tree just at dawn and suddenly scream at the top of their lungs. They continue this for 35 days. The tree dies and falls over. The theory is that the hollering kills the spirit of the tree. According to the village, it always works.
Those poor naive natives.
Me? I yell at my wife.
I yell at the telephone.
I yell at the lawnmower.
I yell at traffic.
At the dog.
At my kids.
And at machines. Especially at machines.
Machines and relatives get most of the yelling. Don't know what good it does. Machines and things just sit there. As for people, well, the Solomon Islanders may have a point. Yelling at living things does tend to kill the spirit in them.
Hi. Oh my gosh, hi! Oh my god, it has been so long since I last talked with you. How have you been? Oh. Oh. Oh my god, I am so sorry. Talking with a friend on the phone. She has a case of midwinter blues and a terminal cold she says in September.
You don't ever get depressed, do you?
Are you kidding me? There are times when I get so low, it takes an extension ladder to climb back out.
So what do you do? I mean, what do you do?
Nobody ever pinned me down quite like that before. Usually they ask what I think they should do. My solace is not religion, or TV, or yoga, or even deep sleep. It's Beethoven. I put his Ninth Symphony on the stereo, hold the earphones down tight, and lie down on the floor. The music comes on like the first day of creation. And I think about old Mr. B. You knew a whole lot about depression and unhappiness. He moved around from place to place trying to find the right place. He had a lousy love life. Quarreled with his friends and family, too. Mr. B wanted to be a virtuoso pianist. He also wanted to sing really well. But, unfortunately, when he was still pretty young, he began to lose his hearing, which is usually bad news for singers and pianists. By 1818, when he was 48, he was stone cold deaf, which makes it all the more amazing that he wrote his great Ninth Symphony 5 years later. He never actually heard it. He just thought it. So I lay there with my earphones on, wondering if it could have ever felt to Beethoven the way it sounds in my head. The crescendo rises, and my sternum starts to vibrate. And by the time the final kettle drum is drowning out all those big chords, I'm up on my feet, singing along in gibberish German, and jumping up and down, celebrating the end of the world and the coming of God and all his angels. Hallelujah! Hallelujah! Boom! Bang! Boom! Lord! Uplifted, exalted, excited, affirmed, and overwhelmed. Man alive! Out of all of that frustration and disappointment, out of all of that sorrow and trouble, out of all that deep and permanent silence, came all that majesty and joy. He defied his fate with jubilation. And I can't just sit around in my winter ash heap wringing my hands feeling sorry for myself in the face of that music. Not only does it wipe out the blues, it probably cures cold too. Someday, some incredible December night when I'm very rich, I'm going to rent me a great orchestra and a grand choir and a stadium hall, stand on the podium, and conduct the ninth. And I will personally play the kettle drum all the way through to the very end while simultaneously singing along at the very top of my lungs! And in the awesome silence that follows, I will bless all the gods that be for Ludwig von Beethoven, for his ninth and his life. Man alive!
After the dishes are washed and the sink is rinsed out, there remains in the strainer at the bottom of the sink what I will call momentarily some stuff. Now, any rational, intelligent, objective person would say that this is simply a mixture of food particles that are too big to go down the drain, composed of bits of protein, carbohydrates, fat, and fiber.
Dinner dandruff.
Furthermore, the person might add that this material was first sterilized by going through the high heat of cooking and further sanitized by going through the detergent and hot water of the dishpan and rinsed.
No problem.
But any teenager who has been forced into washing the dishes knows that this explanation is a lie.
That stuff in the bottom of the strainer is toxic waste.
In other words, it's about enough to make you hurl.
One of the very few reasons I have any respect for my mother at all is because she reaches into the sink with her bare hands. Bare hands. Picks up that lethal gum and drops it into the garbage. To top that, I once saw her reach into the wet garbage bag bare-handed. A kind of unbelievable courage. She found it in a clump of coffee grounds mixed with chicken fat and scrambled eggs. I almost passed out when she gave it to me to wash.
Once, in French class, our teacher taught us the word hors d'oeuvre, and when she told us it meant unspeakable filth, I knew exactly what she was talking about. I see it every night in the bottom of the sink. That night at dinner time, I told my mother, "We have hors d'oeuvre in our sink." Well, she gave me her "my kid the idiot" look and told me that the very food I had just eaten was at that very same moment in my stomach, and in about the same condition, rotting.
No matter what my mother thinks, the stuff in the bottom of the sink is lethal and septic. It'll give you leprosy or something worse. If you should ever accidentally touch it, you must never touch any other part of your body until you have scalded and soaked and rinsed your hands. Even worse, I know that the stuff can congeal and mush up and mutate into some living thing that can crawl out of the sink in the night and get loose in the house.
You know, come to think of it, my father never came within 3 feet of the sink in his life. My mother said he was just lazy, but I knew that he knew about what I knew about the gunk in the sink. I told him once, I bet Jesus never had to wash the dishes and clean the gunk out of the sink. He agreed. It was the only theological discussion we ever had.
Imagine a high school graduation speech. The speaker addresses the students and asks,
How many of you would like to be adults, independent, on your own citizens?
Well, all hands would go up with some enthusiasm, and then the speaker would give the students a list of things that grown-ups do.
Clean the sink strainer.
Plunge out the toilet.
Wipe runny noses. Clean up the floor when the baby throws up strained spinach.
Empty out kitty litter. Scrape up dog doo.
Bury dead pets when they get run over in the road.
When you can do these things, then you'll be adults.
Some of the students may not want to go on at this point, but they may as well face the truth. Taking out the garbage of this life is a condition of membership in a community.
Being an adult is dirty work.
But someone has to do it.
A while back, I decided it was time to buy a cemetery plot. What an odd shopping experience. Popular wisdom says the 3 most important things to consider when making your real estate decisions are location, location, location. But I thought, it's a grade. What difference does a view really make? And resale value? Not a problem. Well, I made my purchase, and now from time to time I like to go pay my respects at my final resting place. Visiting my own grave always helps me to the sorrows in my mind and soul, especially when I lose track of what's really important. On a recent visit, I noticed that the neighboring property owners were James and Edith Grimm and Jacob Pleasant. Being buried between Grimm and Pleasant of a poetic brightness about it, don't you think? Once I went to the cemetery late at night, bringing my favorite blanket with me. I laid it down on my grave, stretched out, and was startled. This grave has an incredible view. Looking straight up, I could see starshine that was coming to me from millions of light years away. Trying to conceive the magnitude and complexity of space, I just laid here, looking into that darkness, with all that light. You know, I never like that verse that says, "Dust art thou, and to dust thou shalt return." We are energy, just interchangeable with light. We are fire, earth, and water. We're also hopes, dreams, and fears, held together by wisdom, but pulled apart by folly. So much more than dust. If I should say instead, miracle art thou, to mystery thou shalt return. The light I see from my grave started traveling through space ages before I even came into being. The stars, which are the source of that light, may have in fact died out by now, gone. That is a scientific fact. Somehow that light still shines on. My life gives off another kind of light. That light may shine on long after its source is gone.
Ick.
Ew. Oops. Ugh. Yikes. Ouch. Yikes. Sheesh. Eek. Ew.
Aww.
Wow.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Isn't in the dictionary. You hardly ever see it on the page, but it's part of our vocabulary and has been since the diaper age. Uh-oh. Millions of sounds have come and gone throughout history as we've reached for ways to communicate more effectively. The most potent words we use in many cases have been grunts and moans, together with shrugs and funny faces.
Neener, neener, neener.
Uh-oh. Quietly reverberating since the dawn of time, a part of a symphony of squeaks and squawks communicating elaborate thoughts with perfect clarity.
Uh-oh.
Aw.
Ouch.
Oops. Oops.
Yikes.
Yay.
Huh?
Woo. Wow. Yikes.
You.
Yahoo. Yay.
Wow.
Wow.
Ew.
Yum. Yum.
Yuck.
Aw.
Ew.
Yum.
Hooray. Eh?
This is 1963. From the deep and canyon aisles of a supermarket comes what sounds like a small-scale bus wreck, followed by an air raid. If you followed the running boxboy armed with mop and broom, you'll come upon a young father, his 3-year-old son, an upturned shopping cart, and a good part of the pickle shelf, all on the heap of the floor. The child, who is not hurt, sits in a small lake of pickle juice and is experiencing what might nicely be described as significant fluid loss. Mixed with tears from a runny nose, mixed with blood from a small forehead abrasion, mixed with saliva, drooling from a mouth that is wide open, and would make a noise that would drive a dog under his bed. The father has remained amazingly quiet, still in this face of catastrophe. The father is calm because he is thinking about running away from home, thinking about just quietly turning and walking away, since no one knows his kid, getting into a car, driving away to California maybe, getting a job at Paperboy, or cooking an all-night diner, something, anything that does not involve contact with 3-year-olds. Oh sure, someday he might find this all amusing, but in the most private part of his heart, he is sorry he has children, sorry he is married, sorry he grew up, and above all, sorry this particular 3-year-old cannot be traded for a model that works. He will not and cannot say these things to anyone. But they're there. And they're not funny. Later, the father sits in the parking lot holding the sobbing child in his arms until he falls asleep. He drives home and tucks the child into his crib. The father looks at the sleeping child for a long time. The father does not run away from home.
This is 1976. The same father paces his living room. In his hand is what's left of a letter,
crumpled into a ball, and uncrumpled again. The letter is from his 16-year-old son, the same son from the pickle juice, the pride of his father's eye, or was, until today's mail. The tables have turned. Now it's the son who is running away from home. He says he hates his father and wishes he never had one. He says the father is a jackass, a jerk, and a failure as a parent. And ends with, I would wish you'd drop dead. The father is shouting at the ceiling. Why me? Why me? Well, the answer is simple. He has a son. The son is 16. Stuff happens. Someday, some long day from now, he may laugh about even this. But for the moment, there is only anguish.
This is 1988. Same father, same son. And they're still running. Out, jogging. It's 6 a.m. The son is 28 now, married, with his own 3-year-old son. The father is 50. As the father and son cross the busy street, the son looks both ways with his hand on his father's elbow to hold him back from the dangers of oncoming traffic. You can hear them laugh as they run on up the hill into the morning. And as they sprint toward home, the son does not run ahead, but runs alongside his father, at his father's pace. They love each other. A lot. You can see that. They've been through a lot together. So they work to take care of their love. And one of their favorite stories will always be Once Upon a Time in a Supermarket.
There are little clues that my life is entering a new stage. My children are beginning to look middle-aged, and they pat me a lot in a very patronizing way for no apparent reason. I don't ask them why they do this. I'll take any affection I can get in any way they want to dish it up. Another clue of change is the sudden urge to take small children on excursions. Last week, my granddaughter, Sarah, and I went on an adventure that sounds like the title of a B-grade children's storybook. Grandfather and granddaughter go to the zoo. First time. And we saw all the lions and the tigers and the elephants and the giraffes and the kangaroos and the bears and the gorillas and all the rest. Every last living creature the zoo had to offer. And even some possible dead ones. But for all my... Oh, Sarah! Look at the... What Sarah's most interested by were the pigeons that hung around the concession stand. What she liked about them is that she could almost touch them, but not quite. No matter how carefully, cautiously, quietly she approached them, the pigeons always managed to stay one small step further out of reach. The space between her and the pigeons moved in concert, and she spent most of her time at the zoo trying to close this moving space. All the other animals were over there behind bars or moats or glass, in another world. But the pigeons were over here, in her world. It would be made even more real if she could just get her hands on one. Well, Sarah, what would you do if you caught one? She didn't know. Possessing was not in the plan, just teaching for the pigeons was all that mattered to her. Driving home in a thunderstorm, Sarah fell asleep in a car seat behind me. I sat and looked at her for a long time. Who is this child? I wondered. Now that I'm older and wiser and have the time and patience I didn't have as a father, I will approach Sarah as she approaches the pigeons. Carefully, cautiously, and quietly. And I will wonder, as she does, how one can be so close and so forever far at the same time. She is not mine, and she never will be. There are 2 people who think of her as their daughter, and 4 people who think of her as their granddaughter. But Sarah belongs only to herself. There will always be a moving space between us, this untraversable distance that must be treated with respect. And just as Sarah doesn't know what she would do if she ever actually caught a pigeon, I don't know what I would do if I caught Sarah. To love something and to possess it are not the same thing.
Next. Next. Have you completed the form?
Where am I?
Have you completed the form?
It sure was a long climb up.
Yes. Have you completed the form?
Almost.
Almost.
I just have one question.
A question?
Yeah,
Well,
it's about this one blank.
which blank?
The one that says religion?
Yes. Do you believe in God? Do you believe in God?
I believe in Howard.
Howard? You believe in Howard?
It all has to do with my mother's maiden name.
Your mother's maiden name.
Was Howard, and she was part of a big family in Memphis, the Howard family. And so I grew up thinking of myself as a member of the Howard family.
So, what does that have to do with God?
Oh, well, it's really quite simple. See, what happened was that I got packed off to Sunday school at around age 4. And the first thing I learned was the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. And what I heard was Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. And since little kids tend to mutter their prayers anyway, nobody realized what I was saying. So I went right on believing that God's name was Howard, and that I was a part of his family, the Howards. Since I had also been told that my grandfather had died and gone to heaven, God and my grandfather got all mixed up in my mind as one and the same, which gave me a pretty comfy notion about God. So when I knelt beside my bed each night and prayed, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, I thought about my grandfather and what a big shot he was. Because, of course, the prayer ends with, For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. I went to bed feeling pretty well connected to the universe for a long time.
You're putting me on, right?
No, not at all. I belonged to the whole big scheme of things. I lived and worked and had my being in the family store. The whole universe was a Howard family enterprise.
So, do you still believe in Howard?
Well, let me put it this way. The 13th century Christian mystic, Meister Eckhart, said the eye with which I see God is the same eye with which God sees me.
What the hell is that supposed to mean?
Not only do I believe in Howard, but Howard believes in me.
It's February, and I have an appointment for physical. In the waiting room are 2 other people much older than I.
very nice, tidy, intelligent-looking couple. Both probably in their 80s. Here to see the doctor too, I guess. So I'm sitting there in my February state of mind, and this nice old man next to me waves at me and says,
"Hey, Merry Christmas."
"This is February, right?" "Yeah, it's February." And I look at him, "Merry Christmas to you." And he sits back and he starts singing.
"Oh, you better watch out. You better not cry. You better not pout. I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town."
All the way through, finishes the song and says,
"Hey, Merry Christmas."
and I say, "Merry Christmas," back to him. And I'm thinking, could be me. Well, the nurse comes for him and he goes off.
We've been married for 60 years, and Fred's 87 now, and, well, in our family, we like to say his wiring's coming loose. He's had a few little strokes, and there's some Alzheimer's. He's just getting old, and every once in a while, he suddenly announces it's Christmas. The first time he did it, I thought I was crazy. I thought, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, because I heard him shouting from upstairs, "Hey, it's Christmas Eve! Merry Christmas! Let's decorate the tree!" It was so strange. So, I called both my daughters and told them what was going on. Well, they came over. And they brought him some presents, too. They said, "For God's sakes, Mother, it's not illegal." Well, we had a wonderful time. And the best part of the whole thing was when he said to me, "You know, I can't remember some of the things when I was a child. Tell me about Christmas when I was a little boy." Well, he had a terrible childhood. His mother was a drunk. His father ran off. He was virtually orphaned when he was very young. I don't want to tell him about that. And so I did something I have never, ever done or thought I would do in 60 years. With this man. I lied to him. I told him about the Christmas that he got a rocking horse, and I told him about the Christmas that he got a bicycle, and the Christmas he was in the pageant. And he loved it. And we had a wonderful time. One of the best Christmases we ever had, even if it was July. And the strange thing, along about bedtime that night, he forgot all about it. I guess it slipped his mind. And we never did get to Christmas Day. Christmas Eve and good memories seemed to be enough. But 4 months later, it happened all over again. I heard him singing carols upstairs one morning, and here came Christmas into the hall. "Merry Christmas!" And I thought, what harm? So, this has happened 4 or 5 times now. In July, and in October, twice in December, and now, in February. Each time, he wants me to tell him about his childhood again. And I do. I'm getting so good at lying about how wonderful his Christmases used to be that I half believe it myself. I call the girls each time. Just say Merry Christmas into the phone. And here they come. They always bring him presents and bake cookies and sing carols. The whole thing. They love to do it.
Just then, old Fred comes shuffling back up the hall with the nurse.
Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey! Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas.
See, the girls don't think of it as Christmas anymore. They think of it as Father's Day. And I kind of think of it as Valentine's Day. Merry Christmas.
There is a bench in the city where I live. It's a simple structure, 3 slabs of smooth gray granite, and I have checked with a compass to be certain that I can tell you that this bench has been carefully placed so that the long ends face north and south, and the short sides faced east and west. This sturdy seat has been placed with a purpose on the highest ground of the highest hill in the city, so that when the sky is clear on a summer's morning, you can see almost 60 miles in 3 directions. This bench is in fact a tombstone in a cemetery, and I would take you there to sit if I could. You wouldn't feel uncomfortable sitting on it, I promise. You wouldn't even notice what it was at first. It's right on the edge of a paved lane that curves through the burial grounds. It's placed so that you are clearly invited to use it. The placement of the bench, the consciousness of the view, all say that someone went to a lot of trouble to be useful in death. A parting gesture of quiet generosity has been made. Funerals have a certain narcissism to them, a focus on self. What I want for my funeral and what I want for my epitaph is a very human holding on to identity, as long as breath and granite last. But to me, tombstones are markers of loneliness. But this bench has become a spiritual retreat for me over the years. And I know I am not the only one to use it. Because once, I found a note taped under the bench. Not for me. For a young woman, from a young man who is in love with her, and wrote her careless poetry with great passion. And no, I'm not sorry I snooped. And yes, I put it back how I found it. And no, I didn't wait in the bushes to see who would come and get it. Secret lovers have enough problems as it is. But it was on this bench, one summer morning, that I came to the moment when one crosses from abstract intellectual knowledge to the realization that one day I will die.
Me. I will not be, sooner or later. Not only did I realize that I will die, but as I walked away, I thought, well, it's okay. I connected that moment of enlightenment with the particular sanctuary of the bench and whoever provided it. This bench will last hundreds of years. Many people will sit on it, not thinking of the name of its owner, but of the nameless joys of this sweet life. And I thought about how utterly amazing it all is, and the mystery of death, and that somehow, sometimes, things are just as they should be.
It is a sweet life when I take the time to see it. And there is wonder inside of me if I can find a way to free it.
Sometimes it seems so easy to walk through my life with my eyes closed to heartache and strife.
But every so often, even in my mind's darkest night, there comes streaming through my window a fragment of light.
A glimpse of truth for me to partake, and I might miss it if I'm not awake.
How can I live in the dark when I could be part of that light? How do I capture that spark and reflect it into the heart of the
There's no way to measure what these fragments are worth. Scattered moments of connection to life on this earth.
Flashes of understanding that can set your soul ablaze and flicker softly through all of your days.
Stop now and listen. Can you hear a faint melody? Just outside here, all around us, a great symphony.
But nothing in life has the power to inspire, like adding your own voice to the mighty choir.
How can we live in the dark when we could be part of that light? How do we capture that spark and reflect it into the heart of the night?
Hooray!